Hey guys, this is Jason Morris with Real Estate Agents That Really Work, and it's part of my For Sale by Owner Master series I'm doing for free on YouTube. And guys, this recording is about your paperwork, and I know, guys, you guys are probably going, man, why is Jason talking about paperwork and all this stuff? But my broker has classes that go over paperwork. I don't need to learn. This guy isn't even in my state, but I will tell you guys, if you're going to listing appointments, you're showing up, you're sending your pre-listing package, you're going through, you're building a great rapport, everybody loves you, and then all of a sudden you get to the paperwork and you see people's eyes rolling back in the back of their head. The husband and wife are looking at each other, then they're going, let us look over this before we decide what we're going to do, or some variation of, let us think about this. And everything's went perfect up to that appointment, that part of the appointment. The reason they're not signing with you is because of how you're going over the paperwork. So, you know, I see this over and over again with agents, and I've saw it with new agents over the last 12, 13 years that I've worked with. Your broker probably has classes where they talk about all your contracts and listings paperwork, and they go down through this stuff and they go down through it, literally reading it to you word for word. And then what I see is most agents, they turn around and they meet with clients. They have a great listing appointment. Then they go through 10 pages of legal paperwork, word for word, and they don't get the listing. Well, the first thing is, when brokers are having this class, when your broker in charge is having this class, they tell you all the scary stuff that's in these documents. And really, most of them, now I don't know about your state, I only know about the state of South Carolina, but most of them, man, the listing agreement's pretty unbiased. It lays out expectations really for both parties. And, but let's face it, there's some scary stuff in there. I mean, your broker in charge tells you all these crazy stories that happened one time in the history of your state. And then you turn around and tell these same crazy stories to these to your sellers that you're meeting with. And I mean, there's things in there like there's this whole Megan's Law thing that talks about sex offenders. It doesn't mean a sex offender. It doesn't mean there's a sex offender there or there's one in the neighborhood that you got to figure out who it is. It just means, hey, there's a list out there. If you're concerned about it, go look on the list. There's a section about how we can sue you if you don't pay us. Well, of course we can. It's like that with any contract. Anybody can sue anybody. There's a section about how we're responsible for nothing. There's a whole mediation clause that's, kind of confusing. If you've never seen it before, there's a lot of big words. There's scary things. And for most people, like I've told you, most people have never done this before. So they're looking at this. You're going through it word for word. They don't understand it. It's a good chance some of the agents explaining it probably doesn't understand it either. They've never seen anything like this. It's a legal document. Nobody likes legal documents. It's boring. Lots of big words. And most people on top of it, they think that it's kind of insulting when you actually read 6 to 10 pages to them. I mean, it's literally it's just not going to work out. And, the mistake I see agents making over and over again too is, yeah, they can read the paperwork, but they don't really understand it. They don't know how to explain it easily. And, in most states, the state of South Carolina, the Realtor Association gives us a lot of contracts. And I think it's like this in most states. In reality, you typically only use like 3 or 4 or 5 contracts at the most. We got 5 forms maybe that we use over and over again. And a lot of the brokers and a lot of the agents, they can read it, but they don't understand what it says or how to properly explain it. So when meeting your clients, you want to be able to completely and effectively go through the paperwork as quickly and as painlessly as possible. And you want to be able to do this like on a 3rd grade level. And I'm not saying this to insult your client's intelligence or anything like that, but your clients have never seen this before. I mean, you guys have went through it every week. You guys have went through it in class every week with your broker in charge. I can't really help you summarize this in other states. I only know about the paperwork in South Carolina, but you should take out your paperwork, your listing paperwork, and a sheet of paper. Go down through each section, writing out a short, easy to understand explanation. Just paraphrase each section. Honestly, you probably talk to your broker in charge or another agent that's more experienced than you in your office, and they can probably help you do this, or at least look over your short explanations and paraphrased explanations. Uh, you don't want to have to go through it word for word with a client. You've already emailed it over to them, so they've had it 24 or 48 hours or more. In some cases before you even got there. You send it with your whole listing package and pre-appointment package and all that stuff, so they can read over it themselves, word for word. But what you need to do is go through those sections, paraphrase each section of it. That way you can easily explain it to other people. For example, in state of South Carolina, we have that section on Megan's Law, which is the sex offender registry. If you guys don't know, it's about a 2-inch paragraph, and I mean, it's easy to explain. If you care about the sex offenders, if you care about the sex offender registry, and if there's one in your, sex offender in your community, there's a website that you go look it up. And I mean, that is literally what the 2-inch paragraph says. So it's so much less painful to give that short explanation. And you can do this. I mean, you can do this while you're effectively going over it and making sure that you touch on all the important parts. I just really believe a lot of agents, and I think this is probably some problems you may be having, is a lot of agents just don't get listings because they don't know how to properly explain the paperwork. And then on top of it, they don't know what it says. And then they go over it and they overcomplicate it on top of it. You need to write it all out. Make you a script, because you want to be able to present the paperwork. Just like you presented your marketing plan through the pre-appointment package, you presented your pricing strategy, you presented your net sheet. You want to be able to present your paperwork. So write out your script. Write out your little paraphrase section of each section of the contract. And once you do this and practice it and stuff, your closing ratios at listing appointments are going to go through the roof. I wouldn't be surprised if they double or triple. You should probably do this with buyer contracts, agency agreements, any paperwork that you use over and over again. Like I said, I include my listing paperwork in every pre-listing package that I send out. The version I email is a clean copy where everything's been filled out except for the seller's name, property details, price and date, but all the other stuff, such as the commission block, the block that says the realty company I'm with, the eXp Realty, all the basic stuff that's the same pretty much on every listing. I have all that stuff filled out. And I send this to them for 2 reasons. I want them to know for sure I'm planning to meet them to do business. I don't go to people's houses to preview properties. I come to their home. I come to their house to get their home on the market and start the process of looking for a buyer. That's number one. And number two, I want to be familiar with the paperwork. Most people, when they look at your pre-listing package, they'll at least pull up your paperwork, skim through it. So when I show up to the listing appointment, I always have the paperwork completely filled out, except the price. I like to fill that in when I'm sitting in front of them. But when I get there, I have everything filled out. I have their name, the property address. I don't fill in the price because I want to go through the comparables and the net sheet and stuff with them. But I'm 100% prepared with my paperwork, my property disclosures, whatever other disclosures and stuff I need. I know there's a lot of agents that like to do this all digital. And what I find is, we talked about this in one of the other recordings. I tried for a little while to do this on my iPad. It's just not nearly as effective. If they do want to look over a little section, you do have clients that do want to look over a little section or two here and there. It's hard for them to scroll through if they're not really tech savvy. It's hard for them to scroll through and see stuff, and it's hard for them to go back through it. And a lot of your clients are just not as tech savvy as you are. It's so much easier if you actually print out the paperwork, show up with it filled out, show up with it highlighted, the whole thing. I know the big trend is all of us want to be paperless, And I also find that when you show up with it already filled out, you show up with your net sheet, people are less likely to negotiate commission rates when that block is pre-filled in. If you got to fill in that block sitting in front of them, that means it's up for negotiations. I can't, but I can't stress this enough. You got to show up completely prepared for your appointment. It's part of getting teed up for the appointment. Remember, I talked about that a little bit ago. You need to prepare for the appointment. until it might seem like a little bit ridiculous. I've created rituals around this. It only takes me about 10 minutes to put it all together. Set it up in your Gmail so it's canned and all that stuff, so you can just automatically forward it. But your paperwork presentation, the thing that you guys should do immediately, I mean, probably stop this recording and go do it, is pull out copies of your listing paperwork and stuff. Go ahead and start paraphrasing those sections so that you can quickly and effectively explain it like on a third grade level, easy to understand. Everybody understands it. So you can just go right down through it. You have it highlighted or at least marked up so you can say, hey, initial everywhere highlighted in yellow, or initial everywhere with a blue X beside it, or whatever your choice is. But once you get a handle on how to present your paperwork, you might want to take and practice it with an agent in your office. I'd recommend practicing it with somebody sitting directly across from you. Practice it 4 or 5 times before your next appointment. That way you can just get familiar with it, memorize your paraphrased script, and don't be scared. You're going to show up a lot more confident. You're going to be able to present it easier. You're going to be more prepared. I mean, I really believe this is where a lot of agents are missing the appointment. And if you're showing up to your appointments, you're showing up, man, you knock on the door, the people love you. You get through your appointment, 30, 40 minutes, you're sitting at the kitchen table, you go through your active pricing strategy, you go through their net sheet, you circle the one in the middle and say, hey, Mr. Seller, you said that you wanted to put in your pocket $100,000. If we market it for $109, that's going to get you what you need, and it's still going to be price reasonable. You've seen all the active comparables. You ready for me to get started working for you? And then you go down through the listing paperwork, and they look at each other and say, oh, we want to look this over, or oh, I don't know what we're going to do. Chances are the listing paperwork is where your process broke down. So, hey guys, I want you to list more for sale by owners, and you need lead sources. If you hadn't subscribed to RedX, RedX's for sale by owner service is the best for sale by owner lead aggregation service that's out there. When you subscribe, you don't only get the old one, you don't only get the new ones, you get the old ones too. It only costs $30 a month. They waive sign-up fees if you say Jason Morris sent you. And guys, we will talk to you on the next recording.